Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's a little late. It is 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So by the time you guys see this, it's gonna be the next day, which is completely fine. But I wanted to do and keep to my word and try and keep doing these recaps for you as frequently as I can throughout the week, regardless of whether I take a trade today or I don't take a trade. This way, you guys can get that feedback, right? And today just happens to be I did not take a single trade today. All right. I'm gonna try and break it down step by step as much as possible um, to try and help you guys out. All right. So where we should start, right? Where we should start is where we were yesterday, right? And I did a whole recap yesterday going over this zone that we had over in this little section, right? And then it wasn't until we broke this little zone where I took a call trade, and this ended up being an 80% trade, and I did not take any of the put trades down below. Okay. Today, I had saw, okay, well, number one, yesterday's low was at 470, and then it had a huge bounce back up, right? So today, when we're looking to get into the morning, number one, we already start underneath that 470 level. Let me just back it out just a little bit so we can see, right? We are already starting today lower than where we were yesterday in terms of yesterday's low, right? So my immediate feeling was we're probably going to continue and go puts today, right? Now, I wanted to be a little patient today, right? I wanted to stay a little patient today because this morning, let's go back to one of the things I'm missing to do here, right? Is looking at our economic calendar. And I like using Market Watch. Um, and today is the third. So today at 10 a.m. Eastern, we had ISM manufacturing, and then we had at 11 the meeting minutes, right? For FOMC. Okay, so because within that first half an hour again, there is going to be some type of news, I wanted to stay a little patient. And what we noticed is we had one, two, three, four, five, right? Six, that's 30 minutes, right? So 30 minutes into the day, and there still wasn't any activity. There was a little bit of some movement here as we were dropping underneath the year level that I have, but even with that, it was only a wick. The candle closed here, so this was very flat. Now, other stocks do really well. So here's another little like tip for you, right? Is if we're waiting for news for the overall market, sometimes and many times often you are better trading an individual ticker, right? An individual ticker, an example of that, excuse me, an example of that would be like Tesla, right? So if I come over here and type in Tesla, we'll see, hey, shit, right at market open, this thing just completely dropped. And this actually went really well with our pre-market watch list today, where we were looking for Tesla to break underneath 244. Okay. So underneath 244, which is literally right underneath that pre-market low, as soon as it broke, I mean, this thing went all the way down to 237. The only thing is, if this was 0 DTE and this was Friday, I mean, those premiums would have been massive, but they still probably did really well today. If I go to Tesla and at 244, I probably would have been more inclined to get the 245s. So if we look at those premiums, which would have been right here, that went from $4 to 10, a little north of 140%, right? Again, dude, if this was ODTE, that Tesla trade would have been insane. So Tesla was a really good one today, as was on the opposite side of the spectrum. Nvidia this morning completely went bullish, and those probably paid out well for those that trade it, right? Me specifically, I try and focus as much as possible on only trading SPY, just because I like that zero DTE. I like being able to have zero DTE every day, and that just means there's more risk, and I want to take on more risk because there's potentially better return. Obviously, at for this particular day, it was not the case because these premiums were dog shit. But um, in the action today was dog shit. But hey, you know what? It's okay. There's other days that I can trade. So anyhow, I did not take a single trade in the first portion of the morning today because of just really flat activity, right? Very flat. Even from the very first start of the first candle, you'll notice volume tapered down really hard. As we got closer to that news candle, especially on that news candle, volume started to come right back up, but didn't really do much. Okay. Now, here is something again, which is we're seeing a very similar pattern here, right? This comes up and it hits the 50 EMA, it wicks there, it closes underneath that 9 and 20, and then we get this beautiful put move coming down. Okay. Obviously, always hindsight is 2020. I did not take an entry here. And if I would have got in here, right, and let's cover, I probably would have taken those 470 premiums, right? So at the top here, this goes from 68 cents to $1.60. Again, another 136 potential for a put trade. I am not somebody that likes to trade reversals. I like waiting for levels, and people get the mistake that they think I look for like a breakout trade. I love breakout trades a lot, but it's not all that I look for. But I am definitely not a reversal trader. Now, I'm saying this is very similar because I want us to look at this behavior here, right? The candle comes up, it gets slapped off of that 50 EMA, and then it comes right back down. Notice what happened over here, right? And this is something that we're noting, right? The other day, notice it comes and gets close to that 50, gets slapped right back down. Comes up, gets close to that 50, gets slapped right back down, right? So, and earlier, remember I was showing, I think it was on the other day's recap, if you would have taken it here at the high and got it down here at the low, I mean, it would have been like 100% return. I did not take that trade either, right? It's just not my style. My style is more for once this starts to break, I wanted to get it here because we've shown that this has been a level of support. And if everything is starting to fall in line for what I look for my signals to get in, then I'll take that trade. In this case, we do get that breakdown, okay, which is here at around 130. Now, I didn't take this trade because I wanted to wait for this candle to close. Why? Because earlier the candle wicked, okay? And I want you to see that here is this candle that did come down, which is this one right here, right? This wicked, and then the following subsequent candle was a huge bullish green candle, right? So if I had taken the trade at this moment, right, on this candle, it would have gone from zoom back in. Okay. This would have gone from 120 all the way down here to 50 cents, which would have been a minus 57% drop for me. So I would have definitely have got stopped out on that particular candle. Now on this candle, okay, the same thing had happened where, remember yesterday where how I was saying I'm giving myself like a 30-second to a minute delay of getting in because what I don't want to happen is all of a sudden the candle drop. Remember how I was talking about at the market open, this one had broke the level that I had, but then the next candle broke down. So I wanted to give it just that little bit of 30 seconds to a minute. Well, notice what happens here. Once it did break, how does this candle respond? It holds this level. How does the next candle respond? It wicks down, but holds the level. So none of this is keeping me looking like I want to take this put trade. Even though this big red candle had dropped, what we're doing is holding the level. Now, had I taken the trade here at 130, notice what happens when it pulls back here to this 9 EMA. It comes all the way back to $1. I would have lost what, like 25%, right? $1 to $1.30 is 30%, right? So would have lost close to 30% on this trade by getting in, and I didn't feel comfortable getting in here. I felt the move was already extended. I was also keeping in mind, one of the things that I like to do as a trader is be mindful that, hey, you know what? There is people that probably took this trade here earlier and they're looking to cover some of their profit and what have you. Or, there's the opposite type of people where, hey, this candle, this doji candle is here. We have two green candles. Some people are maybe looking to take a long here. Who fucking knows, right? So I didn't like what I was seeing, and I felt the play was a little extended at this point. Obviously, it dropped a little bit further, but I just did not like the setup. So because I didn't like the setup, I didn't trade. And this is something that I really want to hammer in for you guys to understand is you do not need to force trades. One of the things, especially as a mentor and somebody that runs a program where I have sometimes thousands of people that are sitting here watching, right? Normally I have like 1,000, right? Somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200, maybe on average about 800 people on live at any one time. But there will be times like on a free Friday, I may get into that $2,000 range, right? Or excuse me, 2,000 people range. And people are looking at me to, hey, I need a call out today. I need to make money today. And what I noticed going back to my metrics is every time that I allowed that motive to drive me, it led to me forcing trades. Whereas instead I would have been very patient or have not even traded that day because I didn't like the activity. And this is very important for you, for when you're trading, many of you don't have that pressure, right? You don't have that pressure to perform, right? You may have it for yourself in a different light though, of, hey, you know what? I need to provide for my family. I have that pressure. Hey, you know what? I need to try and save up for a house. You may have other external pressures that are on you that are driving you to try and make money every single day you're in the market. What you need to understand though is those pressures are not helpful. Okay? You cannot come into trading with that type of pressure. You can also not let that pressure influence your decision making. What you need to be is disciplined. And for me, I felt I was very disciplined today in the fact that, you know what, I did not like this trade. And instead of forcing this trade, which would have led to me losing in either of those two scenarios I just showed you right there, either 50% or 30%, where I would have been red on the day. I'd rather not take a trade, stay disciplined, trust my instinct, and not lose money than to force something and lose 30 to 50%, right? And that I think is really huge that you guys need to understand. And the other side of it is, again, if there's no trade today, guess what? Or at this particular time, there could be a trade later. And there was plenty of trades later. Today was a family day for me. My kids are about to go back to school soon, so they're trying to hang out with dad, and we're trying to do stuff at the park and hang out. And that's another thing that you guys always need to put into perspective as well, is remembering why you are doing whatever it is that you're doing. And it's great that many of us are making a living and we're providing for our family. But one thing that I have always been taught and one thing that I have learned is that shouldn't come at the expense of the time you then spend with your family, right? Like oftentimes we try to make a living for our family to just keep working. You never get to see your family. So then what's the fucking point, right? This, you're defeating the whole purpose, and many people end up divorced because they end up becoming workaholics, right? It's always put things in priority and perspective, and my kids always come first before anything. So today they wanted to hang out, and so today I didn't really trade after this morning. And I'll break those down here too, what I would have saw and maybe how I would have gone about certain things. Obviously hindsight is 2020, but I'm going to try to go from this candle by candle, so you guys can understand. But always remember that, guys, like, don't get so busy trying to make a life that we forget to have a life, right? So anyhow, going back to the trading, I did not take this trade, and that's fine. So then later, right, we start to hold and it starts to come back up and it starts to look like it's going to push here. And this is where, again, I am not a reversal trader. Maybe there are some people that took a trade right here at 468.80 and maybe took that quick little push up to the calls. At this point, what I'm noticing is the highs are getting lower, right? So we're still following that bearish trend that we have from the morning, right? We're just right on cue. It's not until here, okay? It is not until here, and this is key because notice, once we went underneath 470, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. We had 32 candles, right, underneath 470 by after we had broke it, right? And every time it came back up to 470, like during this little zone right here, what happened? It got rejected and came back down, right? So this was really big, where these candles, they did not quite break 470, but they were right there. The other thing that was big, just like yesterday, okay, is when I took that call trade, what was one of the things that I said that I really liked about it is that it had broke above that 50 EMA. Now, I don't use the 50 as an indication to get in, but when we've been trending underneath it and it's been a resistance and now finally we're above it, then that's a pretty decent sign, right? So same thing here. Hey, you know what? We've been trending underneath that 50 EMA all morning and now it's starting to break. And then when it broke 470, this little move, if we come over here, this would have been at 470. So it probably would have been the 470 calls. That would have been the quote unquote safer trade. And look at how these perform. This goes from 70 cents. Ugh. This goes from, right here is lined up, 70 cents up to about $1.17, 68%. So, and that is within 10 minutes, 5, 10, 68% in 10 minutes. This trade, I would have felt way more comfortable taking because it's very similar to that trade of yesterday. The other thing that is really nice about this is that from the time that it's breaking out, where is it going? To my next level, right? Which we had this level based off of the week, right? If I come back and draw on this level, it was from that low of yesterday. It's not like, hey, this line came out from out of nowhere. No, look at, if I go left to right, this was the low yesterday, which then at some point today, because we were underneath it, became a level of resistance. Notice it comes and hits and bounces right back down. Okay, so this would have been the area where you're looking to take your profit or start to cover, right? Because you're coming up to a potential resistance area. And then you determine that because then you have subsequent candles after that confirm it. Notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, fucking 7 candles that can't break that level after we had wicked above it, right? So this is a telltale sign. What? This may continue to come back down, and it does. Now, This put trade I would not have taken. This isn't my style. Also, because we're still in line now with where we were at in the zone we were at earlier, this would still not be an interest of put trade. So if I had traded after this first initial dog shit morning, this probably would have been the only call trade that I took. I was probably playing basketball with Tay during this point. So way more important than taking this little 68 percenter. Then we had FOMC meeting minutes. Okay. So FOMC meeting minutes today, right, was at right here at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay. And it's off by like 30 minutes. So it looks like it's more around. No, it's right here. Right. So meeting minutes come out and we immediately drop hard and then it drops further hard. And those puts probably did really well. I haven't even looked at them, right? They went from like 68 cents all the way back up to $1.40 for almost 100% again, right? But it was very fast. Now, when news candles drop, excuse me, I like to wait for that candle to close. I don't like to try and guess, right? That's gambling. I don't try to guess how that news is going to play a factor, if it's going to go calls or puts. I like to react afterwards, right? And I like to give it time. So when this candle dropped, I waited to see how this next candle, and I waited about 30 seconds to a minute. You want to see how this is going to perform, right? Like if I was doing this is my mindset of what would be going, I would be waiting 30 seconds to a minute to see how this would perform. And then it comes right back up, right? This will be the telltale sign like, hey, this may start to reverse, or it's doing some BS right now. You want to stray away from it. So you may want to wait for the next candle or the next candle, right? Don't get so focused. A lot of people get candle fucked. And I alluded to this on the last recap. You want to take a step back, and the more patient you can be, and the more disciplined you can be to find your true setup, the better, right? So all of this, you don't want to be trading, right? You want to let things calm down a little bit. Then you get this crazy, all of a sudden, rocket green candle. Just boom, huge green candle. Now, the significant thing about this, and this is truthfully, honestly, probably if I was trading, I probably would have got fucked here, because this looked too freaking good. Because for me, and I'm just being open and honest, I probably would have got fucked at this point in time, because now this candle closed very decisive, and it closed above the level that where we had multiple resistance earlier. I can see myself waiting for the close of this candle and getting in on the following candle open. Now, there is a caveat to that message. That would have been the 2023 version of me. If you guys watched the recap, the last one, and today, what is one thing that and just a few seconds ago, what is one thing that I alluded to? Giving yourself a 30-second to a minute to see how this candle would respond as we broke out from the level. Remember, yesterday, go back to it. We broke the level. What did we do? We waited to see how it would respond, and if it would test the wick of that previous candle and have continuation and break the level, or if it did what it did here, where it does some hoe shit, right? Same thing over here, right? Is I probably would have got fucked if I let this candle drive my emotion and like, oh fuck, this was a big green candle, I need to get in. No, wait a second. What happens? It goes back red. So now it's a very similar pattern to that of here, but now at the upside, right? And so this, if you just take the mirror image and flip it, right? It's the same fucking shit, right? So me personally, I don't like this. This is stuff that I want to avoid. And this is why, again, because of earlier of how by staying disciplined and patient, I would have waited. I would have also done the same thing here and been extra conservative, right? The only trade that I see that I really would have executed that button on would have been if we broke this low, okay, which happens right here the last 5 to 10 minutes. Now, this is not a trade that I would ever take because this is too close to the close of the market. Those premiums are not really going to move much, right? I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to take that gamble. That's not a trade that I would have taken. So all of this shit here to me is not action that I like. Okay. This is not my style. This is stuff that I want to try and avoid. Now, there is a lot of areas in here where there could have been many people getting fucked. Just like yesterday, there was probably some dumbass that got calls here and it went puts and then got out of the calls and got puts here and then it went back calls and then they got fucked, right? I know it's probably one of you that is listening to this video, right? Same thing here. All of this stuff, somebody probably got puts here thinking it would keep going down and then it went calls and then vice versa. They got calls here and then it kept coming down. Or even worse, here when they had this big red candle that looked enticing, right? Saying like, hey, come get it. Like earlier, right? Here's the wick. There's nothing difference between this. Obviously, it's a bigger move down. But what do we have to do? We have to stay disciplined and wait for the close of the candle. What ends up happening? Candle closes freaking green, right? So you don't get faked out by the wick. Don't get faked out. And how I don't get faked out is I let the candle play out, right? I give it time to play out. In this case, comes right back up, does some hoe ass shit. Now it's holding this level right here at around, what's that, like 469.50, right? And then it just stays within this thing. Yeah, there's a couple of wicks here and there, but some idiot probably bought puts here. And then look at what it did. Huge rocket green candle. And they were probably holding right here, right? They were probably like, oh, well, I'm going to wait till it breaks above 470. And then I'll probably get out of the trade. And then all of a sudden, rocket fucking candle comes up. And they're like, oh, fuck, shit. I just lost a shit ton of money. Fuck it. I'm going to double up my money and I'm going to put more in here. Now that we had this big green candle and I'm going to buy calls. Then what happens? It goes red for a little bit and then it goes green. And so in their head, they're thinking, oh, fuck. All right, cool. Like it was red. It's going to go green. It's going to keep going up. Next thing you know, boom, 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 boom. Right? And they get fucked again. Right? I know some of you guys are laughing because some of you guys fell into that. Right? And it is very, very, very important that we stay disciplined. And I'm actually glad I was at the park today so that I did not have to deal with this fuckery because obviously, again, hindsight is 2020. And as I said earlier, I really would have been very enticed to take a trade at this moment in time, especially as it got close to this high right here. My dumbass probably would have been one of those ones that was really close to pushing the trigger here. And I can't tell you whether or not I would have or wouldn't have because I didn't trade today. But these are one of those things you got to look out for, right? And if I'm going back to the scenario of yesterday, what would I have wanted? A break of this previous wick with some nice volume to go. And because we're so close to this resistance level, at that point, I would have personally wanted to maybe see how it responded to this level and see if we broke that before jumping and getting enticed to continue on, right? But again, I'm talking from a hindsight 2020 perspective. But these are just things that are going in my head right now as I'm actually, this is the first time I'm looking at this chart in whole and going over it in detail. And so you guys are kind of hearing a real-time perspective of like what my thought process would be. And I'm kind of, as you're noticing, mentally noting, okay, if I see this scenario tomorrow, this is something I got to be aware of. And instead of just looking at here, I need to take a further step back and not neglect my level where it's like, hey, you know what? I probably would not take this because now it's so close to this resistance level Where here it hit the resistance level and dropped. So what's to say it's not going to hit this, which it gets really close to, right? And do what? Come right back down. So I'm kind of playing that out in my head as I'm going over it. But I hope these recaps are valuable for you. I'm just trying to walk down and give you guys as much pointers, like I said, as possible. I really, really appreciated all the feedback from the last one. Please, if you can, I don't know how long this video is, just take a minute or two and write me some feedback. I know last year I didn't respond to comments on my YouTube. This year I am spending time going through each and every comment, and I'm doing my best to respond to them in written format. Or if I notice it is a comment worthy enough, I will be making a video to address the comment, right? Like some people had things of like, hey, you should do a video of how you even get your levels. There's going to be a video about that. Like, I'm not going to spend time writing it out. I'd rather make a video to describe that for you. But I wouldn't know to do that unless you made that comment to begin with, so I get that feedback, right? So please keep providing me feedback. I really appreciate it. Go follow me if you're not following me on Instagram at stockmarketwolf.com. Again, you could go to the website stockmarketwolf.com. We do stuff for free and paid services. You could go through the site and you could see what works best for you. As always, thank you guys so much for the love and support, and I hope to continue to do these. Please just keep giving me feedback. That is like my fuel to keep putting information and content out here for you, is to see you guys engaging with it, right? So again, thank you guys so much for the love and support. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and let's see how tomorrow ends up being. But today for me, so far, is 0 trades. Yesterday I traded, so we'll see what the rest of the week brings. You guys have a blessed rest of your night, and see you guys mañana.